Okay, so hello everybody and welcome. I'm Candi from 9stepstopower.com and I am here with my friend Pastor Harold Timberlake. And we're going to just share a little bit about how we came to be and our journey, witnessing each other and what we see. And then we're going to get into a topic that he and I were discussing last night, and he actually brought it up. And it's entitled "What Do You See?" Right? Okay. So, Harold, thank you so much for agreeing to have one of the many conversations that we have in private on a platform. You and I, when we do talk, we really go deep, and rarely do we share this. And I just want to just give everybody just a little bit of what we do. So, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good, and I want to say it's good to be back with you. We used to do this on the phone with 20, 30, sometimes 40 people maybe, and we would talk about uh, so many different topics. I mean, so many different things would come, and it's just good to be back with you, Dr. Candy. And I'm excited about tonight because I do know that there will be some revelations that come forth tonight that at current I'm not even thinking about. But as we talk, as we speak, I know that these treasures will flow. So I'm really excited about where this conversation will go tonight.
Yeah, because we
So
don't really plan it. It's just like
no.
something that really, really happens. I remember, well, I'll let you tell it, how we met. I think that it's a interesting.
Yeah. So of course we met in Greensboro at Inner
Mm-hmm.
Growth Ministries with Apostle Wayne Clapp. I remember I was just getting there, and I remember the day you came and you spoke, and I said, of course at Inner Growth there's so many people with so many different giftings and how they flow and prophetic abilities and just abilities. One of the most gifted uh, people, churches, places that I've ever been before. And I remember that day. And I said to myself, I said, I've got to get to know Dr. Candy. I've got to get to know her. You said some things that day that really, really sparked me. I said, I've got to get to know her. And since that time, we've been friends ever since, and we've been working closely together. And I'm just excited about this new next. I'm gonna call it the new next. Yep,
Yeah.
this new next is going to be good because it's time that we bring the gifts together. We have some conversations to provoke thought inside of others, because we all have these treasures inside of us. But sometimes it's only until conversations like these come forth and come out that we're able to connect with others. Even just having conversations just between the two of us can literally cause things to happen in other people. So I already know. I'm excited. I'm excited about this one. I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you have some next coming up that we won't really uh to discuss right now, but I'm so excited about your individual next.
Mm.
Just watching you take the chances that you have taken, the
Wow.
hits that you have taken for
Yeah.
not being traditional, for just speaking from your inspired self and showing people back to themselves. I've been able to witness that. I think when I first met you, you were just coming out of a traditional setting, and it was something to see because you were already your spirit was already there, but your mind was still processing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to catch your mind had to catch up with your spirit. And being that I am primarily a emotional mastery life coach, and I am, not in any practicing religion. I'm highly spiritual, and I could tell that you were way ahead of yourself spiritually, but this concrete thinking had to loosen itself, and
Yeah.
there had to be a breaking so that you could be more pliable and less dense, if you know what I mean, right? The more dense we are, the less fluid we can move through this world, because the world is so dense, right?
Right.
And teaching ourselves how to release the weight, the unnecessary weight that we carry, is all about, it's what life is all about, really. And that's what I witnessed with you. Tell me a little bit more about that transformation that you went through at that time.
You know what, Dr. Candi, that was the transformation of a lifetime. I would call that the first rebirth. I would call that the first rebirth. What I've since found out after my first rebirth, there are many rebirths that a person absolutely goes through in a lifetime. It's not just one. So it's not just in the church. It's said that when you accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, that you're saved or you've been born again. Well, in the rebirth of the transformation of the mindset with the thinking, you go through many of those. You don't just go through one. You may have an initial one that literally wakes you up from the matrix, brings you out of the matrix to where you begin to cross over from your logical thinking and crossing over into more of an awareness of yourself. Could say a total mind shift to where you're on the other side of your thinking. If you thought one way, now you're starting to think another way, putting away old ideas and constructs of ways that a person thought, and that was me. And so yeah, when we met, I knew something uh, changed inside of me. I just came out of from stepping down from the pulpit, didn't leave the church, never left the church, but just had to take some time away because I had to, Dr. Candi, I had to see what was going on with me. What's happening to me? No one would, I couldn't talk to anyone. I mean, it's almost like I was coming apart. My whole mind. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm thinking about. I don't even know how to think right now.
Yeah.
All of these thoughts jumbled in my mind, thinking spiritually, thinking naturally, thinking about family, all these different feelings, emotions as a man, as a father, as as both an employee and an employer. I mean, pastor in a church. Well, at that time, absolutely, I wasn't pastor, so I came out by then because this was about probably 2020, maybe. I'm sure when I did meet you, and so that was a contrast in my life. I don't know if any of you that may be listening, if you ever felt like you were in a time where you were coming apart because you could not answer certain questions that you had yourself, but you could not answer them. You couldn't understand what was going on in your life. Some people would call it a midlife crisis. It wasn't a midlife crisis for me. It was a spiritual awakening. I began to finally wake up out of all the years of preaching, pastor, and loving church, loving God, loving Jesus. I finally began to wake up. and I finally began to come to myself, and I finally began to make some decisions, Dr. Candi, for my life, for one time in my life. Most of the time in my life had been dictated by other people's thoughts, other people's ways, other people's systems, what other people said. My last name. When you come up in North Carolina and your last name is Timberlake, and you live in the Raleigh-Durham area, the Granville County, you live in a bubble. You're a Timberlake, and my God,
Yeah.
I was one of the I was one of the wild ones. I wasn't I even though I was preaching. I'm telling you, I'm just I'm the wild stallion or something.
Yeah.
I was cut from a different cloth. I had my own pathway, ministry definitely, but I just my own person. Didn't know though. Didn't know the purpose plan for my life. Didn't even know purpose. Thought preaching was purpose. Thought pastoring was the purpose. It was a needful thing, of course, at that time, and I love it. That's a part of me. That was what I chose, but that was not the purpose of life. God knew the true purpose for my life was that when I would begin to wake up and see myself, then I would understand the ministry. Then I would begin to understand the transformation of the mind of myself and begin to put it with ministry, begin to know what ministry is like when the mindset begins to change inside of the individual. When that begins to take place inside of the individual, the different manifestations begin to come forth. And then what I found out, even as a pastor, even though I wasn't pastoring at this time, but then I begin to find out that the words that a lot of the scripts that we read can then become made alive in a person's life, that they are able to see it and see those things manifest in their life. And I think it's what the church has been looking for all this time. They've been looking for the power. They've been looking for this to come off of the page and see it made manifest in their life. And I'm telling you, Dr. Candi, I think we finally got it. We finally got it, Dr. Candi. And I'm just
Yeah.
talking about, I can't say for someone else. I'm just saying what happened with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, and I think it's amazing because during our run together when we were really doing our talks and things like that, we came in contact with so many pastors
Oh, yeah.
who were like, what is going on, right?
Oh,
And of
man.
course, I had my own interpretation from studying the atmosphere and just seeing everything that's actually happening, and everything is the way it should be. I
That's right.
think that the thing that people think is something is wrong with them, right?
Hmm.
And so when from a life coach perspective, it's easier to work with people who are able to lay down the judgment lens and just ask themselves, what do I see?
Wow.
What do I see? And so many times we're told what we should see. And we are taught that we need to question what we see.
Come on.
And you do question it, but you question it from a place of trusting the answer that you get,
Mm.
right? So you do question, but I think the other portion that we miss is the trust factor, because you have people telling you that you need to trust something outside of you. And so, whenever that doesn't work, then people start to blame other things. We blame the university, we blame the religion, we blame the church, we blame the court system, we blame all of these things outside of us, not realizing that all of these things came from the idea of us,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And when you begin to work with people, because even though you're a pastor and I'm life coach, you still work with people.
Of
So
course.
when you work with people, you notice that you have to really chisel away at the concrete thinking that accumulates over a lifetime of an individual. And when you ask them to just suspend these ideas just for a little while so that you can kind of get them a little bit more flexible to do the work, because we're not in the business of having people constantly come to us. I'll speak for myself as a hypnotherapist and somebody who works with people. My goal is to have people maybe done with their work or either on something else, not ruminating over the same thing in a short period of time. Not saying that you don't constantly have to work on those things, but when you think about it, when you first met me, what did I say about graduating? You remember that?
Well, I do remember. I do remember in part
Yeah.
around the theme. Um, and I'll use it. I'll use it like this, and you correct me. Come back in at any time. But this is the thing that so there's a foundation of where we start in our faith, and it's what we come in on and learning is our faith and what's presented and what's given, which is good for us. It's good. We need this as a foundation.
Yes.
We need a basis. Everyone needs
Yes.
to start. Everyone needs a building block. We all start at the same place. Everyone needs something to hold on to, whatever that might be. However, it came into you listening to me. I don't know what your pathway was or what your faith is, but nevertheless, when you have that faith, that's the that's your foundation. That's what you're standing on. We would say things like uh, how we stand on the solid rock we stand. All other grounds are sinking sand. And so we stand on the solid rock of Christ. But you don't just stop there. You don't just stop at your foundational starting place. There comes a time where you're going to have to graduate. Faith is the substance of things. Matter of fact, the scripture says it like this: now faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hebrews 11:1, the evidence of things not seen. Well, when you come into yourself, when you come into a new knowing of yourself, when you've experienced a rebirth, Hebrews, the 6th chapter, verses 1-3, it even tells you to put away the elementary teachings of that. Isn't that something? It literally says that. You can read it for yourself. It tells you to put away those things, because now it doesn't say this part, but this is what the writer is insinuating when you read it. Is now it's time to graduate. You have to graduate from your faith, your foundation. Keep your faith. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Keep the faith. Oh, we have to keep the faith, because that's the foundation in which we stand. But we don't stop there. We graduate. We graduate from faith to knowing. I don't have faith, Dr. Candi, that I'm sitting here and talking to you. I don't have faith about that. I don't have faith that I'm taking a drink of this water and it's good. I don't have faith of that. There's no faith. But I know that I'm talking to you right now. I know for a fact that I just had a cold drink of water. I know there are some things that when you begin to know, you begin to change your language, because words are definitely spelling. And so knowing is higher than anyone's faith. When you know something, you no longer have faith. Faith dissipates after that. Why? Because you know. So we want to get to the place. We want to get to the place of things that we're knowing in a season. What do you know about yourself? Okay. What do you know about your own thoughts? What do you know about your own feelings? Have you had an opportunity to sit between your emotions and feelings? Have a conversation. What do you know about yourself? What do you know about love? I mean, these are questions that we should know about our own selves, because and the reason why is because when we deal with people, we're able to articulate what is inside of us so we can better work with people. A lot of people can't sometimes even work together because they have not had the opportunity to be able to express who they are to the other person properly. So there's no guessing games being played. Why? Because once you know, once you know something, you can make an agreement. And so, but the first agreement that has to be made, Dr. Candi, I'm convinced, is the agreement with yourself, of accepting yourself. And this is rebirth. When you start to accept yourself, you accept yourself as the one that's going to motivate you and get you. You got to do that with yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to speak to yourself. You got you and it, go ahead. Go ahead. Come
No,
on
no,
in.
no. I would just want to stop you on the acceptance
Okay, good.
because this is the foundation for me to move in a way that in the being, right? In the
Right.
being, because you go to the knowing and then you just go to the being, right?
Come on. Come on. That's good.
And then so when you are just being,
Being.
when you're just being, you can always tell when somebody else is struggling with that because a lot of times people, Harold, if you notice, when you and we are together, we're just being, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, I know you feel that
Right.
when
Right.
we are not necessarily even judging what the other person is saying. We just express it, right?
Right.
And it
Right.
doesn't even have to be a conscious agreement. It just
Right.
is.
Right.
That is such a good place to be in your life but it only happens once you accept the parts of you that you've been taught to suppress.
Right.
Now, I want to address suppression versus integration. What do you see? A lot of the times we see things, and when we're taught at first, we're taught that we have to suppress things. And in the beginning, you do. That's all a part of, this whole thing that I do, shifting from force to power. At first, when you're first learning how to ride a bike, it's very difficult. It's like you're forcing yourself to stay on this bike and to balance yourself. And then after a while, like Bruce Lee says, you become the bike
Mm.
and you start to feel, okay, I got it. This is good. And you begin to know that you got it. And then you just be. And then so you can run out of your house, jump on your bike, and run to the store and not pay riding the bike any attention at all. Think about it. When you're on the bike and you're learning how to ride the bike, you're paying attention to your feet, you're paying attention to your hands on the handlebars, you're paying attention to, am I in the right lane? Is any cars coming? Because I don't want to get on a hill and I don't want to. And then after you learn how to really ride that bike, you're no longer judging yourself.
Right.
You're no longer saying, am I pedaling correctly? Am I doing this right? Am I steering in the right way? Now you get to kind of enjoy the scenery. You get to look at things as they pass because you're no longer focusing on that. When you get to that point, it separates you from others who are, you can see it. I'm not saying it separates you like you're better than anybody else or anything like that, but it makes you more accepting and less judgmental. It makes you more objective. Even when you see other people struggling, you have so much more compassion and
Mm.
less judgment, because you just riding your bike. You see somebody else that looks like they're struggling riding their bike. It's nothing for you to hop off your bike and say, hey, you want to jump on? Or, hey, do you need some help? But when you struggling trying to ride your bike, you can't pick up nobody else. You can't help anybody else. And this is where people need to know it is so important to graduate so that you can be useful to other people without judgment and have compassion, right? And it's so natural. It's not like you like, oh, Lord, please help me have compassion. It's not contrived like that. It just happens through your own growth, your own acceptance, your own knowing, your own being. And I think this is what people miss. They try to help people too early. They try to jump out there and say, oh, I read this last night. I'm giving, study to show yourself approved.
Right.
Work out your own salvation. Get your own stuff together so that when you see something else happening, you're not triggered. So many people are triggered by other people's stuff, and they don't even realize that is a projection. And that is what I think a lot of people are bumping into each other when we come into environments that are really made for spiritual development. And when that spiritual development is not done on a spiritual level, when you're doing precept upon precept and you're doing the building blocks, that's the concreteness of it. Now it's time to move past that after you have gotten your balance on the bike. And so that was just a concept that came in my mind based just off of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That acceptance is everything, because once you begin to accept you, you accept every part of you. You don't look at yourself the same. People that are usually coming through rebirth, because of the unawareness of there's so much unawareness. As a matter of fact, we come out of unawareness into awareness. But I would say it's a gradual process. It's not that you're just unaware one day and you're aware. I think it's a gradual process. You're going between the unawareness and aware, because you're becoming more aware every day of yourself, of other things. You're considering much more. I consider much more today than I did yesterday. And even 2 days ago and 3 days ago, I consider more. I consider more about myself first, more about other people, more about things that are happening in the world. I'm very considerate, because there's more than one way. There's billions of people in the world. So there's billions of different eyes. Come on, people are seeing it different ways. So how can I just expect it to be my way, this way? This is the only way it is. No, it's not. That's just the way I feel it is. But if I accept that for myself, fine. That's my journey. But I have to give way for someone else and their journey and how they see it. And I have to be sensitive even to that, as we're making the world a better place, as we're seeing more first inside of ourselves, but then other people. And then, yes, like we talked about losing judgment. Once this begins to happen and we start to accept these different parts of ourselves, and that we're changing and we're thinking differently, you begin to focus a lot on you. I was going to say this. I think that one thing that happens in rebirth is, like you said, people do jump out there because you're seeing yourself change and you want someone else to get it. But but at that time, many are unaware that they're still coming through the cocoon themselves. We all are. I am. And I will continue to be. I'm always coming forth. I'm coming forth. I may have came out of one. I may have came in from unawareness to awareness in one area. I may have rebirthed in that area, but then there is something else I'm going to need to see, learn about
Mm-hmm.
myself, learn about
Mm-hmm.
other people, things like that. Go ahead, Dr. Candy.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm listening. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything.
Oh. Yeah. But I totally I totally lost my train of thought. I
No,
did.
I was feeling you on that. I think when I remember when you know where you go from that place where you are awakening, people see there's something different and they want to ask questions and things like that. And and you don't eat, like you say, you don't even want to really discuss it because it is not a word to
Right.
it. That there's no words because you're moving from the physical
Right.
into the spiritual. You're making that shift from being able to articulate it, and you're moving from thinking and doing into being,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so it becomes increasingly difficult to explain it because it just is, and it's not
Yeah.
anything that you can pick up a book and now I journal things, I write things down, and when I get epiphanies, I do set it aside and say, okay, I'll put that in a book, or I'll put it, because I do believe in scribing things, because that's what we do. We scribe things so when we leave, somebody else can pick up the book and they can read the book of Harold. They can read the book of Candi if they want to and see what they can get out of it. We're all worthy of doing that. And as we do that, moving from that place, you remember when you first started working with others? Because people will ask you, I want you to work with me. I want you to share this with me. And I remember being really tired, really
Mm.
drained. And I remember thinking, whoa, I am so tired. And of course, I would have my rituals and things that I would do to make sure that, when I finished working with people, showering and drink, staying hydrated, and just covering myself in my way.
Right.
And, but as I rode the bike more with ease, I'm no longer drained
Oh
by
yeah.
helping people and pouring into them, because there's this overflow, and I have so much self-acceptance within myself that when I see people going through things, I'm not triggered. There's nothing in me. So to be able to have this empathy without it pulling on you, to be able to have compassion without feeling sorry for people, to be able to see this strength in other people comes from being able to see the strength in yourself.
That's
And
it.
it also helps you with your own children, because at one point my heart ached so much for my children. And I was like, you know what? After I got to a certain point within myself and I saw how this journey is, that's not my journey. Their journey is not my journey. And so being able to even parent from a more compassionate, accepting place, and to allow them to be their individual selves, and to be able to watch them, mistakes and
Mm.
all, and still smile and
Yeah.
say, they've got it, but they have
Yeah.
to learn themselves, for themselves. I've already poured into them. Now it's up to them.
Right.
So that's something that I saw that happened in my personal life, as well as my coaching life, and as well as even with my friends and people that I come in contact with. Totally not judging. I didn't understand what that meant. Sometimes when you're in a certain framework, and people say, "Oh, you shouldn't judge people," and then you have other people say, "Oh, well, how are you not going to correct people if you don't judge them?" You know what I'm saying? But finally, it's not anything you can explain. It's a place of being where you really truly aren't judging. And when I say judging, what do I mean? You know what I mean? Putting people in a box.
Right.
Oh, well, because Harold does this, Harold is that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. I totally. I want to go. I want to before I go to the judgment. I want to talk about the children because one of the things that I found out in rebirth that I had to do is I had to be very transparent with my children. At the time, I had to be very open and honest. I couldn't have ever done that, Dr. Candi, had I not been very open and honest with myself. And I had that
Right.
responsibility for as a father to my children because they deserve to know. So many children never got the opportunity to really hear from mom or dad. They never did. They had to wait until they got older. Somebody had to die. Someone had to get married for them to find out the truth. No, 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 no. I wanted to change the narrative of all of that because
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the best things that parents or grandparents, could be great grandparents, could do, should do, possibly. Now it's up to you, but is to have conversations that probably other people would say that you probably should not have with your children about yourself. It's of course everyone has their own journey, but I'm just talking about as far as I had to have a very open conversation with all of my children, even down to my 6-year-old, about the rebirth because things were changing with dad, and I wanted them to experience first from a first person's perspective from their dad directly to them so they could process the information along with myself. I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Candi, is one of the best things I ever did, but I would have had to have lost judgment with myself in order to do that because even some of those processes even wasn't pretty even in front of my children. And so therefore because when what happens is when you're going through, especially if you're a parent, you're going through your rebirth, experiencing rebirth, you best believe those that are around you are going to experience it as well. Many people may not understand, especially those that may be your peers or older, even possibly younger. But and the thing is, it's not necessarily. I'm with you, Dr. Candi. It's not necessarily for someone else to understand because it is their. It's the particular person's own journey of their lifetime when you experience this. But when you go through that, see yourself, you begin to lose. Once you accept yourself, every part of yourself, what some people call good, other people call bad. When you begin to accept yourself and lose the judgment, your life, you begin to really experience what I would consider freedom. Most people don't have freedom in this life. They don't have liberty. They're not free. They're very stressed out. Some people are making money, still stressed. People are in marriages, whatever relation, still stressed out. It has nothing to do with that. Has everything to do with them never coming to themselves and continuing to carry someone else's judgment in their life during this lifetime. But once you begin to come into yourself, you begin to release that. There's a freedom. You can ride your bike. You can have some. You can enjoy life. You can. I love what you said, Dr. Candi. You can check out the scenery as you're going through life. You're experiencing life. You're checking it out. You're not making a judgment about it. You're making decisions in it, but you're not making a judgment about it. Why? Because you lost your judgment. So now you're making decisions and you're enjoying yourself and the experience
Mm.
because you understand. Why? Because you in the unawareness,
Mm.
a lot of things that you come back to in awareness, you've already went through in the experience. And so now you have the opportunity to observe yourself when you come back to the experience to see what choices did you make differently and
Right.
being an observation of your own self. So
Yeah. No, don't. Hey.
Yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah. So it's so important as far as for, many people, they've never had a freedom. They've never had their own, they've never had freedom in their life, never liberty, always living in someone
Mm.
else's shadows, someone else's lies, someone
Ooh.
else's life. So we're living other people's lives and their life as well. And so what happens to the individual life? I know why the cage bird sings. My God, the cage bird wants to get out of the cage. Come on, fly, flap your wings. The cage is open. You can go. You can, but it's up to you. How is that? You got to discover you. You got to discover the you inside of you, and understand that yes, you are on so many different playing fields within your own self.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and so many people have never gotten an opportunity to know themselves because no one, of course, pointed them back to themselves. They pointed it to everything else: your education, the marriage, the money, the children, the husband, the wife, the home, whatever, the college degree. Come on, you got to be a millionaire. You got to make it to the NBA. You got to go to all of these things outside of us, and no one pointed anyone us back to us. We can't
Exactly.
we can't effectively ever get to anything outside of us until we know what treasures are inside of us and we accept what we came with in our cargo. Come on, what kind of cargo do you have? And
Mm.
my listen, just because Dr. Candi, I may love the cargo you have. I may love the way it's delivered. I may love the way it's presented. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I say the best thing for Harold Timberlake to do before I start loving your cargo, adoring your cargo, rooting your cargo, cheerleading your cargo, I need to check out my own
There
cargo.
you go.
Let me learn my cargo. Let me
Yeah.
see my car. Let me learn to accept what I have. Make it the best that I can possibly make it. Then, once I know my cargo, accept my cargo, love, absolutely be in love with what God has given me. Then, when I come outside of me and I connect with the Dr. Candi, then I can appreciate her cargo more. Then my cargo and Dr. Candi's cargo could put together, and then guess what? The manifestation of that cargo could help other people with their cargo, is what we're doing right now.
That's it. That's
Come
it.
on.
That's it. We got out of each other's way. I
Mm,
remember just this whole thing here. We were just out of each other's way.
okay.
It was just one of those things. Oh, you coming this way? Okay. And just let you just go that way and I go that way and then we meet. And I mean, we would do that in session. And
Right.
it was just that whole evidence of acceptance because we wouldn't even go over anything that we were going to talk about. We
Mm,
had all of those people, and they still talk about it to this day. And we had all of those people, and you would just say whatever it was you were going to say. And because I could, because I was well rounded and you were well rounded, it didn't matter where we went. There was no closed door,
right.
right? And it was just this dance that we did, which was a perfect prototype to friendship, to relationship, to marriage, to work partnership, entrepreneurship, when people want to come together and do a business together, not just so dead set on coming to the table
Come on.
with what it is they have and yours has to match mine.
Mm,
It actually just does this right here. And it fits, not because it's the same, but because we are accepting.
ooh, I got something. I got something right there. So now let me transition into what do I see? So the thing is with what you just said. So when I begin, I remember at Inner Growth when I began to observe, I said, whoa, and I was observing everyone's gifts. I hadn't seen anything like it before. I mean, I really hadn't.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is, and in particular, so when I begin to see uh, how you flowed and what was given, you begin to appreciate it. You can appreciate someone's gift. You because you become a student to the gift. Sometimes you're a teacher, sometimes you're a student, but because you've accepted yourself, because you have no problems with loving yourself. You spent time with yourself. You know your own voice. So when you hear another voice, you see other expertise. You see other treasures coming forth, going forth. You know how to sit down. You know how to be quiet. You know how to receive. Hey, listen, what, 2 ears, one mouth? Hey, let me listen more. Let me learn. Let me take in. Let me see. How can I implement someone else's treasures with what I already have? Come on. And I never even have to tell them what I'm doing. Only thing I have to do is listen, be receptive of it. Why? Because I've accepted myself. A lot of people have never accepted themselves. A lot of
Yeah.
children, a lot of parents never told children to accept themselves, told us to accept Jesus, but never ourselves. So I think
Yeah.
I think that people are going to start to accept themselves because no one's coming to save us. No, we're
Right.
gonna. No one's coming to save us. No one's coming to save us. No
No
one's coming to
one.
save you. You listening to me? No one's coming to save you. You're gonna have to save yourself. Save yourself a lot of trouble by accepting yourself. Teach your children. Fine if you want to accept Jesus. That's fine. But help people to get to know them, what's inside of them first, and then the concept, these outside concepts. If you want to accept all outside concepts, fine. But first go within your own treasure. Love that in which you see because it's been given to you while you're here. You got to utilize it in the present moment because that's all we have. And that's the gift for you to go forth and all of that without no stress, no strain, releasing everyone else's systems, adopting your own, coming up with your concepts, what you feel good about. And then if you want to add to from all of your old experiences and other people and other books and other things and all that stuff, that's fine. But first check you out. I say I got my money on you before I put it on someone else.
Mm. I have nothing to follow with that. That's the end of this conversation. We dropping the mic. I think that when you say, and we're going to answer this question, and we'll answer it the best way we can.
Sure.
What do you see? What do you see?
What do I see? What I'm seeing right now, Dr. Candi, I'm seeing contrast in the world. I am. Many people would call it. They would call it dark times, war time during times of war. But what we're really seeing, what I'm seeing, is I'm seeing the manifestations of what's happening in the psyche of men and women. There's wars and rumors of wars that are happening inside, and now it's being transferred on the outside. It's manifests. We're seeing the manifestation of the psyche of people being transferred out to become made reality, coming out of the sign of Pisces, which is fantasy and reality, going different ways with the fish. Well, that's exactly what's happening in our world, and we're crossing over into the age of enlightenment. So there's a major contrast. We're right in the middle. Christ said, "Lo, I'll be with you even until the end of the age of
Right.
end of the age." And so, therefore, the concept, the Jesus concept, is in a sense. I know this might upset some people, but it's dissipating because we're coming into graduation. We're collectively, and no one's asking the question. You're in a I hate to say it, but it's true. You're in a forced kind of reality, which is happening regardless. Some of you are not going to move. Some of you are going to stay where you are, and no one can, and that's fine. Everyone's not going around this cycle. It's not going to get it. That's fine, but it's happening regardless. And you know what? You can feel it. You can feel what's happening. You can sense what's happening. You can look at the wars, rumors of wars. You can see the transfer of the thoughts outside of the war in people's minds that's being transferred out right now. But you can also feel something else happening inside of you, that something is changing. Some of you are now breaking out of systems. You're seeing yourself differently. You want to make different decisions. You're thinking more about your life. You're thinking more about transitioning because you've seen many people transition. So you're thinking about your life in every single area, and that's one of the best things that you can do is see it in contrast. Don't look at things just one way. Consider it multiple ways because it is multiple ways in other people's eyes. You may see it one way, but guess what? You get 10 other people, they're going to see 10 different other ways. So therefore, don't get locked so much into a system, but feel good about the thought that you're making because everything is simply a decision. That's all it is. It's a decision that you don't have to necessarily attach to the emotion from the decision that you make. Isn't that something? You do not have to attach to the emotion from the decision that you make. It was your decision. Guess what we do? We rise and we fall off of our own decisions. So if that be the case, what do you feel good about? Whatever you feel good about, go with it. I say that's a God decision. That's a good moment. That's a God moment, good decision. And guess what? Be unattached from it. I tell you why, because everything in this life is on lease. We're on lease, you're on lease, our time is on lease. So therefore, enjoy yourself because it's just an experience. What do I see? I see myself better. What do I see? I see myself in the light. What do I see? I see joy. I see wealth. I see health. I sense happiness. These are things that I see in my life. Why? Because I am that. You have to become that. If you want to be that, you have to become that. Why don't you get in that, begin to feel that, sense that, know that, and see that made manifest in your life? That's what I see, Dr. Candi. And I see you, and I appreciate you, Dr. Candi. I really do.
Same here. Same here. That was awesome. See, I should have said what I see first.
No, I had to get mine out the way. Because I know you're getting ready to close it down. So I had to get mine out the way. And I just appreciate you.
Yeah, that was awesome. I appreciate you too. I see me. Everything is us pushed out, right? And when I see me, I see you. You are an extension of me, right? You are an extension of me. I think that's another thing that people miss. You are my projection. I called you here, right? And you called me. We call each other to one another, but yet when we show up as the one called, we don't like what we see sometimes because we
Mm,
don't like what we see in us.
come on.
Sometimes we call things to us on an energetic level that represents where we should be. And when we see it, we don't like it because it doesn't match the idea of where we were.
Mm,
So I've learned that when I see things that I don't like, that it is a representation of something that I'm not ready to look at. And I just question, what is that? Therefore, I end up again suspending judgment. So everything I see is good. Even the fact that I know that we're going into an age where everything is different.
mm,
Relationships are different. Religion is different. Politics is different. Education is different. And I always say loss is always asking us who we are without the things we're trying to get. So
mm-hmm,
once I look at that, I haven't lost anything. When something changes, we perceive it as a loss. When something shifts, we perceive it as a loss. We're riding the bike of life. It's a change of scenery. If I see a house back there and a store right there, that doesn't mean I lost the house. That just means the house is back there and I'm up here. The scenery
mm,
is different. We don't lose anything. So I see me and I see you and I see me and you and you and me, right? That's all that's out here. There's nothing else.
Mm.
Everything else is our own imagination, which we can steer that in any direction that we want. I could have easily perceived you as something totally different in my imagination when I met you, and we would not have been friends, and we could have parted ways in anger or in. And how many times have you had to pull yourself away so that you could gather yourself? And when you come back, have I changed?
Mm.
I'm always
Oh,
the same.
yeah.
Because I know you're on your journey. And when we have friends and they don't seem to give us what we think they should give us,
Hmm.
we judge them. I have no judgment for my friends who feel like they need to take a break. They need to go here and do this and do that. Hey, they may not even invite me certain places. It's all working out for my good. That's what I see, and it keeps me. I just can't even explain the joy and the lightness, and it just keeps me free. You use the word free. And when you want people to experience it and you come into their sphere, and instead of them enjoying it, it irritates them. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
You know they're not there.
No. Oh, I got something. No, I know we gotta close, but you gotta. Can I get? I just a couple minutes, or about 45. The thing is this: once you're in that place of freedom and you're presenting yourself just as yourself. I mean, you're just and you and someone is irritated by your presence. Well, I tell you what, they're probably experiencing the most deliverance ever right there, because there's something inside of you that they're seeing and sensing from you that they desire for themselves, especially if you're just being you and you're being your most kind, your most pure self. But you're terribly getting on someone's nerves. I mean, you're pissing them off every time you come around. They don't want to see nothing about you. Why? Why? What is that? There's something in you. There's a freedom in you. There's a light in you. There's life in you. And guess what? That freedom, that light, that life, they may not be experiencing that. So when you come, it's almost like they're upset with what they're seeing, wishing that they had it, but won't reveal to you what's really going on with them. And this is why we have to have patience and be kind to people when they're going through their journey. We can't
Bless
have
their
we
hearts.
yeah, we can't have judgment.
Mm-mm.
They, they,
Mm-mm.
I mean, because they may not even know what's happening. So if someone else doesn't know what's happening, how do you know unless you know, Dr. Candi? How do you know unless you know? You don't. There is no way for you to know. You
Yeah.
can't know until
Yeah.
you know. And then when you know, there's an automatic balance. You don't have to tell someone what you know. They can feel it. They can sense it. They know it. Even
Right.
when they don't even know how to put it into words, they
Yeah.
already know it when you show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike Tyson said something when he said, and I posted it in my story when he said, someone who's a friend to everyone is an enemy unto himself.
Mm.
And it stuck with me because we see so many people trying to be friendly,
Ooh.
trying to be nice, trying to be accepted, trying to be considerate, trying to be loving, and trying to be kind and trying to be compassionate. And then they come home absolutely worn out.
Ooh.
And I'm an introvert, so I don't necessarily get my energy from being around people. But ever since I really got into this next level of being, I don't find myself drained like I used to because I accepted this introversion part of myself, whereas I used to judge it because I come from a very extroverted family. Well,
Hmm.
although I'm an introvert, I'm highly, highly passionate. You know that. So I can go from just not talking to talking too much and just getting really deep down into something. And sometimes you really have to, I used to really have to pull myself back a lot because you can just see the jealousy and the way that some people are when you're just being you, right? Now
Right.
remember how we were when we were children and we had people reacting to us a certain way as children. You're not really aware of what's going on. You're not really able to see like what's happening. On an energetic level, something is literally transferring from person to person, and you are literally reaching out to another person's spirit and they are reacting to that.
Yeah.
And so when you get older, you learn how to suppress yourself. And
Right.
then you get to the point where you just dread going around certain people, right? And when you dread going around certain people and say, oh, I don't really want to be around them because they don't accept me for me. I mean, I was kind of like that in my 20s and then even in my 30s. But I noticed that as I continued to walk and be and evolve and become less attached, which is another topic,
Oh yeah.
to my persona, to others, and I became more connected
Hmm.
as opposed to attached. It didn't matter. And then once it didn't matter to me, it didn't matter to other people. You see how it starts in you first? Because
Yes.
once people feel that you're attached to something, if they feel like you are attached to acceptance, if they feel like you are attached to being understood, if they feel like you are attached to being heard, if they feel like it's instinctive for them to withhold that from you.
Right.
And you wonder, well, why is every time I go around somebody, they always doing this, that, and the other? Because you did it to yourself before you even entered the room.
That's right.
And we don't realize that that is how we betray ourselves. So, what I see me, I see you, and I see me in you. That's it.
That sounds like the scripture, both John 14:17 and also John 14:20. Literally resembles those same sentiments, those same words. And those are the words that Christ absolutely said as far as us in the earth realm. So I see the same thing. And I see it in scripture. And I see those words come off of those pages and begin to rest, rule, and abide inside of my life, my spirit, and my soul.
All right. I love you.
I love you too. And I appreciate you. This has been a great conversation. I look forward to the next one. And I look forward to all of those that are watching. I hope that you tune in next time.
I'll
Myself and
talk to
Dr.
you
Candi.
soon. All
All right.
right. Peace. And remember,
Peace.
reconstruct the world by reconstructing your mind. I know you can do it.